Hi guys, this is Yasir Saeed, and today I'm going to show you how to create a cartoon portrait on Procreate on my iPad Pro using my Apple Pencil. The process is fairly simple. It requires a lot of practice. I've been doing this for a while, so um, every day it's getting better. My lines are getting better. The overall skin tones are coming out nice. So today I will show you step by step tutorial on how to create a cartoon portrait on Procreate. So let's get to it. But before we continue, subscribe and hit the notification icon to get future updates. So initially, I will bring in the picture which I have to draw, and then I create a separate layer to start inking. And I usually start with the nose and get the nose right, and then trace the rest of the features. People usually think that tracing and doing these kind of cartoons is very easy, but tracing is a very initial and very basic part of creating a cartoon. So it's the basic outline, and the rest has to be filled in, especially the hair, the eyes, and different layers of shading, which is actually the main trick, which requires a lot of practice, and it over time it becomes smoother and better. So getting the eyes and the basic features. So what I look for is all the dark lines which I have to ink with black, all the outlines, all the elements, the glasses, and the clothing, hair, that has to be done through inking, and then we fill it in with the base color, and then we add layers of shading. So the whole process usually takes about 2.5 hours. I speed it up so that you don't get bored, but the actual process is tiring, and it takes about 2 to 3 hours non-stop. So once you start doing it, you're very immersed, and um, you're very involved. It all depends on how you control the pen and the pressure. So most of the things, the hair, you need to control the pressure where you want thicker lines and thinner lines. um, Hair is usually the most interesting as well as the most complicated part of the drawing. So once that is done, and you've placed the outlines right, then it's easier. And the beard or the mustache, or the hair, it requires multiple layers of shadows, base color, which is black, then shadows, and then highlights, to actually create that volume of hair. So it usually takes a bit of time. Uh, I've sped it up to about 2000 times the speed. So this is moving very fast. It usually takes me, every single strand of hair, it takes a lot of time to get done. And again, because I've been doing this for a while, so my muscle memory is pretty okay. And now the wrist is used to all these this tedious movement. So now the inking part is done, and once that is done, I close down the reference layer, and then I start adding the base color for the skin, and it can be any color because I usually put in a base color and then I adjust it, um, and then I add one layer of shadow, then the other layer of shadow, and then it works in layers. Usually the last layer is the highlights and the sharp um, reflections. So I'm gonna add the first layer of shadow, the lightest shadow, which is usually close to the mid-tone, and then I'll add more layers of shadow. It's been around 10 days when I started sketching these drawings. So every time, every day, I do 1 to 2 cartoons, and every time I do a new cartoon, the lines are getting better, the results are getting better. I'm getting better shadows and highlights. The overall um, details are becoming, I'm getting improved. So I would recommend that, the whole idea is to do this every day. um, Sometimes I feel that what I do is what I create is not good, but then every day I do it without fail, just putting in the hard work, putting in all the effort, and just doing it even if I don't want to, but then it pays off. The results are very clear. The first drawing that I did and this one, there is a lot of difference, and I'm sure 10 more days down the line, it will further improve. I'm sure this is not the best drawing at the moment, but I still keep doing it, and it still gets better every time. Every drawing that I do is usually better than the previous one. I've been doing a lot of male portraits, and I still struggle a lot with female skin tone and the smoothness that is required for the female face. So that is something that I still have to try and work on. But then again, it all depends on how frequently and how much I paint. So it depends completely on practice, and things will get better, and they will keep on improving. So now I'm adding all the midtones and the actual accents in the shadows. So that is something you need to train your eye to spot where the shadows are, where the darker shadows are, where the lighter shadows are, and where the softer highlights and where the sharper highlights are. So it depends completely on how observant you are and how detailed you look into a picture. So it takes me a while. Take your time. I think the whole idea is I've been watching a lot of tutorials. One of my favorites is G World 1234. He does some very nice vector art. He does everything in Illustrator. The guy is great. He does a good job with getting these portraits done, and I'm sure he's been doing this for years now, and the detail is great. And I wish I can do something like that, but then again, that's the goal, that's the idea. And I've been watching his tutorials and try and emulate what he does, and then develop my own style. So reference is the key. You cannot just start without any reference. So
I have a reference, and then I build on it and I develop my own style. And as I said, I cannot emphasize on the fact that um, the more you practice, the more you draw, um, things just improve. Your muscle memory develops. You know how to move your hand to draw hair and the eyes, and the how to control the pressure of the pen. So things are getting better, and they will improve tremendously as long as I keep drawing. So I would recommend that, you um, if you are into something like this, you need to keep on drawing and keep doing what you do, and you will see the results in a few days. I mean, again, as I said, it's only been 10 days, and I'm very impressed by what I've achieved. And people have been doing this for months and years. So by the time I'm doing this um, for a few months or maybe a year, just I imagine that I'll be very good at what I want to do eventually. Initially, when I was doing these drawings, I was following the picture to the T, and I think that's where the problem was, because again, this is a cartoon. This is not exactly a picture. You're not trying to recreate a photograph, so it's a digital sketch. So at times you need to simplify things, and I feel that at times I also get into the trap of you know uh, registering too much detail and making the whole sketch very detailed, and that's completely what I shouldn't be doing, because the whole idea of a cartoon or a cartoon portrait is that it has to be very simple. It has to be simple lines, it has to be simple um, shadows and highlights, and that's where the practice comes in, where you don't have to follow um, the drawing, uh, the photograph, and you need to start developing your own instincts of where the shadow should fall, and um, how the contours of the face should end up to be. So again, a lot of practice. um, I think another trick to all of this is to keep your reference picture as small as you can, because when you do that, um, you see the shadows and the highlights more clearly, and they become simpler shapes than detailed ones. So it's much easier for you to actually create those curves and those triangles and those circles, and putting them in your sketch. So it's much easier. That's what I found out, and I think that's the trick to making a picture into a cartoon portrait. So that's what I try to do, to keep the reference image as small as I can, and it helps. the the highlights are my favorite part, because highlighting the eyes, and then adding these, because this is half of the process is done, and now I'm onto the next half, which is going to be adding the details, adding the highlights and the shine on the glasses and the eyes and hair and the skin. So that's usually the interesting part, where the picture is going to the sketch is coming to coming closer to the end. So things start shaping up, and now it looks uh, close to what I want this to be. And now it becomes more exciting, and now you're heavily invested in the sketch and in the whole process. Adding the highlights, I still struggle with it. I still feel that it's tricky. So what I do is I usually add um, a strong I use patches and a bigger brush to actually put in uh, the highlights, and then I decrease the opacity to just make it blend into the skin and make it more like an overlay on top of the skin, because otherwise the 100% opacity white in 100% opacity will actually become too patchy and look very bad. So once more or less the shadows and highlights are done, I tend to get into the details and where stuff is missing. Adding these highlights on the teeth and under the mustache, on the lips. That's where I get the finishing touches. So it takes a while to get the shine and the form of the lips right. um, Sometimes I have to do it all over again, and you know until I get it right. So it requires a lot of patience. So again, once you're doing this, you need to um, invest into the sketch and be as patient as you can to get the right kind of um, effect. So now he has stubble on his face, and that's a very prominent part on the lower half of his face. So I will add stubble, multiply it, and decrease the opacity just to give an idea of a stubble. And obviously, where there is a lot of shine, I will remove the stubble because there is a lot of light, and the stubble tends to disappear. So those kind of details you need to keep in mind when adding these kind of details. So now I will add the volume to the hair, starting from the mustache, starting from the midtones, and then I will add the highlights, working on the base color of black. Um, you know, adding that volume and adding again the depth. So this also requires a lot of practice to get the shine right, and where you want to put uh, uh, the lines. So he has white hair as well, so I will accentuate those areas where he has white hair on the mustache as well. And then I also want to add um, you know the white hair in the stubble, just to you know capture the personality and the essence of his face. So now I group everything, and then I start working on the background. um, so I will fill the the apparel. He's wearing a jacket. We call it a sherwani. It's a very traditional subcontinental dress. I'll add the shadows, and then once that is done, we'll work. I'll start working on the background. The background is usually a matter of choice. It's a matter of aesthetics. Um, I try and use complementary colors. So if I have brown, I will work with blue, or I don't know, somehow with this image, I kind of like the whole yellow thing, because it made uh, his face and his personality stand out, and because of the shine, the whole thing comes out very nice. So yeah, in the end, the signing, I like to sign my drawings.
So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I enjoyed it. The image came out really nice. For me to do this every day, I need some motivation. So don't forget to like this video, and I would need you to subscribe. It'll be nice if you subscribe. And also for the YouTube's algorithm, don't forget to click that bell thing so that you get notified every time I make a new one. So be safe, stay calm, and see you next time.